Welcome to Ask the Expert, an award-winning daily series from 8:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. to help small businesses. If you've got any questions today, please ask them in the comments on the live feed. If you need any more advice after the session, join the official Intuit QuickBooks SMB community group on Facebook, where accountants and business experts are on hand 24/7 to help. During today's live session, we will be running a poll, so please do engage with that, and I'll reveal the results at the end. If you're on TikTok, check out our Be Your Own Boss competition. Pitch a new business idea and you could win investment, mentorship and business advice to help make that a reality. The investment pot is up to a massive £10,000 now, thanks to Go Cardless adding in some more to that initial pot from the Purposeful project. Tag hashtag Be Your Own Boss to enter. So good morning, everybody. Hope you're all well today. My name is Judith Dugdale. I'm a chartered accountant from the northwest of England. I'm based in the Ribble Valley personally, and I work out of our Preston office. And when I say our office, it's MHA Moore and Smalley. So MHA Moore and Smalley is a large independent firm of chartered accountants advising small and medium-sized businesses across the whole of the northwest. The reason I'm on here as an expert is that I specialise in digital solutions within our organisation. And basically that means I look after a range of clients from all different sectors, all different sizes, from the startup up to sort of 10, 15 million pound turnover businesses. And what they have in common is they use digital solutions such as cloud accounting. Moore and Smalley, we have been working with Intuit QuickBooks for 6 years now. We're an elite partner and we have well over 1,200 clients using QuickBooks Online at this moment. The team that I head up, we are split into two areas. So half the team concentrate on setup of systems, training clients on how to use those systems and ongoing support. And then the other part of my team look after clients on a compliance basis. So we do things like outsourced bookkeeping, VAT returns, annual accounts, corporate tax returns, personal tax returns, and advisory services where we look at the client's bookkeeping and their records, look at their performance, how they can improve that performance, and how we can try and minimise any tax that they may have to pay. One of the big things at the moment that we're dealing with, and I'm going to come on to that shortly, is all about cash flow. And I think last time I was on, probably about a month ago, I did a bit of a session on the importance of cash flow management, projections and looking where you are. And we were doing that because the government had just lifted a load of restrictions. Hospitality had reopened a bit more, so you could go and stay at hotels, you could eat indoors. And obviously what we were all hoping for on Monday was the announcement that actually that could be further lifted, those restrictions. And sadly that didn't happen, and we've been put back another 4 weeks. So what I wanted to just touch on there was what that means for you as a business owner in terms of those restrictions. Very bluntly put, it means no change whatsoever from where you are now. In terms of, if you're a restaurant or bar, you can't have any more capacity within your business at the moment. If you're a nightclub, for example, you're still shut. If you're a cinema operator, you can't have any more people in that you did have in last week. But fingers crossed, things will pick back up and those restrictions will lift. It's not just hospitality that are affected by those remaining restrictions in terms of social distancing, it's all types of businesses. Indeed, the firm of accountants that I work at, all of our staff have been working from home since the 23rd of March 2020. We were massively looking forward to the announcement on Monday to say restrictions had lifted a bit more, so that we could all get back into the offices on a more regular basis. Currently, we do allow staff to go into the office now and again when needed. But for example, our Preston office holds about 120, well, it has about 120 to 150 members of staff at any given time that used to work in that office. And we've got seats available for 20 due to the social distancing. So we're a bit disappointed, just like I'm sure all of you, that we can't get back and work in a more coherent and cohesive way. In terms of things just to keep an eye on, if you are a business that is shut or you're only partially open and therefore using the furlough scheme, currently you can reclaim that 80% that you pay your employees from the government as part of the coronavirus job retention scheme. From July, you can only claim back 70% of that. So just bear that in mind, because that could create a bit more of a cash drain. The other thing to remember is, unfortunately, the bounce back loans and the CBILS loans, which was the coronavirus business interruption loan scheme, they've ended, and they ended at the end of March. And it's probably now that some of those hospitality businesses in particular are feeling a bit of the strain. They were hoping to really ramp up the income generation this month and in July, and obviously that's been delayed a bit longer. So although those schemes aren't available now, there is a new scheme called the Recovery Scheme. And that is where the government will back loans again, just like it did with the bounce back loan and the CBILS. Slightly different this time in terms of there's no small end. It's just anybody that's wanting to borrow goes through the same process. So please do speak to your bank if you need a little bit of help and support there, and they can talk you through, along with your accountant, on how to do one of those claims. That leads me on to the bit about improving your cash flow as much as possible in these tough times. One of the massive benefits of cloud accounting software such as QuickBooks is the ability to invoice on the go. If you invoice quickly, you are more likely to get paid. I am sure every single one of you watching this now will be most pleased with whatever purchase you've done, be it goods, services, when you've just done it. You're happy, you're excited, you think it's fantastic what you've just been given. And then when you're given that bill straight away, you pay it. No questions asked. I'm really happy, I'll do it. If, for example, you were to buy a really nice outfit, you look fantastic, you pay for it there and then, everyone's happy. You then, let's say you didn't get billed for it straight away. You get the outfit, you go off, you wear the outfit, you have a good night, you come back, it's got a little bit messy maybe, it doesn't look quite as good when it's been washed, and then somebody asks you to pay. You're going to be less inclined to pay them quickly, and you're going to be less inclined to pay them the full amount because you've lost that initial love of the product or the service that you've just had. So my big plea today, big top tip, is invoice as quickly as you possibly can. With cloud accounting software like QuickBooks, there's absolutely no reason why you can't invoice as soon as you've delivered the service. You can do it from the mobile app when you're sat in your car. You can do it on your laptop, your iPad, your tablet, at home, in the evening, at weekends, in the morning. Really try and get into the habit of invoicing as soon as you've delivered a service. Many, many businesses we deal with have made the move to the cloud. They're embracing all the features and benefits that cloud accounting allows, such as the direct bank feeds, doing the receipt catcher, putting your picture of your supplier invoice in, and they're doing lots of reporting. But actually, they're still invoicing on a set day a week. And we're speaking to our clients now saying, don't just invoice on a Friday at the end of the week, invoice as you go along, and you will find that cash comes in a lot quicker. The other thing that I would say, another top tip, is particularly if you're working with larger businesses, is just try and find out when their payment runs are. Very big businesses tend to do 1 or 2 pay runs a month. They don't pay all the time like small businesses. They're not flexible like that. They rely on their account staff to be in on certain days to do certain tasks. So what I mean by this is that, let's say you raise an invoice on the 12th of the month to your big customer. That customer has a payroll run, the pay run on the 11th of the month. You invoicing them on the 12th means you're not going to get paid for another 30 days because they've just done their payment run, and they're not going to do another one for you because of the charges and everything around it until the next month. So if you can find out that information, you can make sure you send that invoice just before the payment run, a couple of days before, give them time to get it, process it. It's then in the system and it will get authorised and paid. If you send it at the wrong time, you can be waiting 30 days when you don't need to. The other top tip I would give, and if you haven't looked at this already, is looking at how you can get the pay it now sort of facilities built into your invoicing. If you use QuickBooks Online, there is already the facility to add in PayPal and go cardless into your invoices. There are little buttons on the invoicing section. And if you do add those in, it's great. So what would happen is you click the button, the invoice goes to the client or the customer opens that invoice, and what they can then do is they get an option to go straight to PayPal to pay you immediately, or they have an option to sign up to go cardless. Once they've signed up to go cardless, it means that once you sent the invoice, the customers confirm they're happy with the invoice, you can then, through go cardless, take the cash off them. It's a bit like a direct debit scheme. So those are two other top tips to try and get paid a little bit quicker. And I do honestly think that any little tiny thing you can do, easy wins that don't cost you any more money, don't really give you any more admin headache, they're really worth embracing. And that is why the technology is so fantastic. So I'll shut up about how you can get paid a bit quicker, and I'll start answering some of your questions. So the first question we've had is from Deanna on Twitter direct message. And she's put what the top 3 payment apps you use with most of your clients. So in terms of payment apps, I'm going to assume you mean creating payments, as in taking money from your customers. So as I just said, there's the PayPal, which is a really nice tool. There is the Go Cardless solution I just mentioned again. And then there is another solution called iWalker, which does require you to set up an account with them, just like you would do with Go Cardless and PayPal. The iWalker bit is quite exciting at the moment, actually. So what they've just developed is the option of pay it now for your customers, but also a pay in 3 payments. And what they're doing with this pay in 3 payments is that if you send the link to the client in their invoice, or follow up their invoice with a, would you like to pay this in 3 installments? They pay iWalker in 3 installments, but iWalker pay you the full amount up front. Now, obviously, there is a slight charge for that, because obviously they're taking a risk, but it's quite a low charge. And if you're only going to use it on those customers where you think there's going to be a significant delay in getting paid, then it's worthwhile getting that money in and having it in your bank account so you can buy your goods and the services you need to carry on running your business. The PayPal one, again, there are certain charges around that. There are now, though, great links between Go Cardless, PayPal, through QuickBooks to them. So they'll bring you through the information, making it really easy to match up which customers have paid you and which customers have not paid you. And then the other, obviously, top tip there is when you're going through and you're checking off the receipts as they come in to the customer who owes you, is then the ones that are still not paid is just sending them a friendly reminder. Just remind them that they've not paid. The great thing about QuickBooks is if you sent them their invoice via the system, when you go into the invoice, it will tell you whether they've received it and opened it. And if they've opened it, then there's no reason why they shouldn't pay that unless they've queried that invoice with you. So a gentle reminder, you can send it direct through the system, will just probably make them go, oh, yeah, need to pay that. So yeah, I would recommend those 3 top payment apps. So that was PayPal, Go Cardless, and iWalker. The next message has come through from Toby on Instagram direct message. So Toby says, hey Judith, QuickBooks question here. PayPal takes a fee. So how do I log this in QuickBooks and show the original customer invoice is fully paid? So Toby, it depends on when you set up your QuickBooks and PayPal link. And it might be worth resetting that up, because now there is a much better link between PayPal. You can set up the PayPal bank account, and you can set up the link, and what it will do now is it will bring in those charges so that you can allocate the invoice in full to the customer, and then the charges will appear and you can match them off to bank charges or finance charges within your expenses, whichever way. If for whatever reason you've got it set up already and you don't want to reset it up, or you don't want to mess around with what's already there, and you are currently just getting through the net amount, what you will need to do is effectively you do it almost like as a cash receipt is probably the easiest way for that difference. So the money that comes from PayPal, you offset against that, you match it to your customer invoice, and like you quite rightly said, it will show that there's a bit outstanding. If you do a cash receipt to clear that tiny bit that's left, and then you would go into your cash account and do a corresponding payment, which would then go to your finance or bank charges. And then that would mean that that cash balance goes back to zero. And you can call that almost like PayPal control account or PayPal charges contra account. Call it whatever you like, but you should then, obviously, every time you've got some money from PayPal and you've done that initial two-step process of matching the full receipt and then matching the cash receipt, you then just need to make sure you put those charges through so that that contra stroke control account is always back down to zero. And that's your little test to make sure you've completed that whole task. The next question has come through from Jennifer on Facebook Messenger. Jennifer says, I'm about to start a small digital arts project, only €250, and it's with a client in Italy. How should I be invoicing this? What has to be done regarding tax in the UK? And is there anything the conversion to GBP? So, Jennifer, there's a few things to this, and I may not be able to give you the full detail that you need without knowing all your personal background and how you're running this business. So the first thing I'm going to assume is that you're doing this as a self-employed person. And I'll just briefly touch later if you were doing it as a limited company, but if you're doing it as a self-employed person, effectively anything that you earn as a self-employed person based in the UK is subject to UK tax. And the fact that you're invoicing somebody in Italy is absolutely irrelevant. You don't need to worry about Italian tax at all. You're a UK resident, assuming you are a UK resident. So you would raise your invoice, and then you would obviously track that within your self-assessment records as an invoice that's gone out and a payment when it's been released. What you would probably do is on your invoice, you could, if it's, let's say you're using QuickBooks Online, set up the customer as a European customer. You would put in the €250. The system will then automatically convert that back to British pounds, ready for you to put onto your self-assessment tax return. If this is the only project you're doing, then you won't need to be VAT registered, so you've not necessarily got the VAT implications. If this is one of a bigger business that you have that's maybe UK based at the moment, and this is an extra bit, and you're already VAT registered, then you just need to make sure that there's no VAT charged on that invoice when you send it across. One thing just to note is, if this is the only project you're doing abroad, how are you expecting the customer to pay you? Are they going to pay you in pounds, so they're going to convert it into pounds, or are they going to pay you in euros? If they're going to pay you in euros, how are you going to accept that cash? So that's just one thing to look at. Said before, that was if you were self-employed. If you are trading as a limited company, ultimately it's the same thing. The UK company is registered in the UK, so that company pays tax in the UK. You invoice them in exactly the same way as I just described, as if it was a self-employed invoice. It goes across the client in euros. Systems like QuickBooks will convert that into a British pound cost for you. When you get paid, you may well find that you get paid slightly more or slightly less than what the invoice was, and that will be due to exchange rate fluctuations. So if you get paid slightly more, you just need to adjust your system for that extra bit you received. And if you get paid slightly less, then you're going to have to just put an extra receipt onto there. A bit like I just said with the PayPal side, you would put an extra bit of a receipt in, contra that receipt with a cost, which would be exchange rate differences, and then it would then all match off nicely. As I said, it is not a very easy thing to just explain in a couple of minutes. So if you want any more advice, please feel free to contact me afterwards. I will just put my details on there at the end of this, as well as we're closing off. So yeah, feel free to contact me if you've got any more questions about this. So next question is from James on Twitter direct message. James said, how do we approach conversations with clients about paying sooner or moving payments dates? It sounds stupid, but it's quite simple. It's just picking up the phone, having a conversation with your client, James, and saying, we're going to be doing this work for you. these are our payment terms. Are you happy with those? Yes, I am. When would you like us, how would you like us to send you the invoice? I'd like you to send it via email, or I'd like you to send it in the post. Find out their preferred method, so that you can do everything in line with that agreement that you've got. In terms of getting them to pay sooner, as I said at the start, it is all about sending that invoice straight away. A few of our clients where they have customers where they know they pay a little bit slower, they will make sure they follow up that invoice with a second email, just checking you got your invoice, wanting to just double check that you're aware that it is due by, and reiterate the date it's due by, and then they list some of the methods of how they could pay that invoice, basically giving them as much information as possible to enable them to pay as quickly as possible. In terms of moving payment date, so let's say, for example, you used to give somebody 25 days credit, and now you're saying you only want to give them 10 days credit. Again, it's just a conversation with them. And to be honest, speaking to your customers, it's the people you've used regularly. If you explain the reason behind that, let's say your suppliers have shortened your credit terms, they will understand why you're asking. No one's going to get angry with you. No one's going to get, I'm going to move somewhere else. They'll have an open conversation with you. And then I suppose at that point, if they say we literally can't pay you any quicker than we are, it's looking at other solutions, such as, say, the iWalker solution, where the customer gets the invoice and they could pay over a period of time, but you get the cash up front. And like I said at the start, things like that are great because you don't need to do it on every invoice. You can just do it on the particularly hard to get the cash in invoices. So I hope that helps, James. The next question is Paul on Facebook Messenger. Paul says, my wife has been doing some occasional admin work for me, just a couple hours a week. How should I be paying her and logging that in QuickBooks? I want to pay without having to put her on payroll and want to avoid tax limits. So, Paul, I guess the easiest thing here is that your wife, it depends as well what your wife has in terms of other income. It's, again, not one of those very easy questions that I can say it's just this or it's just that. For example, if your wife has another job, she will, and let's say she earns £12,500 a year, she has used her personal allowance up there. So any other income she has should be taxable. So you've got two options. You can either, she can declare that income for doing the admin work via her self-assessment, registers for self-assessment, you pay it and she pops that extra income onto a self-assessment return, or you need to pay her through payroll. If she doesn't work at all, those rules still apply, but by putting her on payroll, she wouldn't have any pay-as-you-earn or tax to pay because she'd have a personal allowance. Or likewise, if she invoiced you personally, when she puts that on a self-assessment return, there would be no tax due if she doesn't already have a job or earns less than £12,500. But unfortunately, you do need to log that payment properly and be making sure that you're complying with all the HMRC tax rules. You don't want somebody coming and finding that out later. A message from Glenn on Instagram. Glenn says, my cafe hasn't been as busy as it used to be. Despite restrictions easing, I think because of the social distancing inside and local apprehensions, what could I do to increase our income streams? So Glenn, yeah, you're one of the people I was referring to at the start, where this pushback of another 4 weeks really does impact on you because of the social distancing rules. I mean, you can't have your full capacity that you would normally have because you've got to keep your customers and staff safe. So I suppose two things you could do is you could make sure that customers only have an allocated time for the table that they're sat on. Can be a bit awkward with customers who want to sit there and spend hours with you. But if you politely say, this table is free, but it's only free for an hour and a half, or it's only free for 2 hours, then at least if they vacate that table after that period of time, you can get some more customers in and they can sit there and then they can generate more income for you. So you could get a few more diners in or customers in a day if you almost encourage that movement on of people once they've finished. The other thing, I suppose, is if you've not already done it, takeout and publicising that takeout on social media, so people can order in advance, turn up and collect some goods and take them home, as opposed to looking around and thinking, oh, there's no tables. I don't think they do takeout. I'll go somewhere else. That's always an option. And I guess holding out is the third option, just holding out for those extra 4 weeks when you can change it and you can create that extra custom within your fixed parameters, because you will have fixed parameters. You've only got so much space. I suppose in terms of the space, I'm sure you'll have looked at this, is if there's any ability to put some space outside to create a bit of outside seating area, which I know is not always possible, but that's another thing you could look at. And finally, the only other thing you could do about possibly increasing income streams would be to extend your hours, but you do need to do a bit of feedback on that. Maybe do a bit of market research with your customers, because there's no point you extending your hours and having to pay salaries and extra wages to people to be in the cafe at that time if actually your customers aren't going to come. So before you extended hours, I would just double check that's something that would generate extra income. I think we've probably got time just for one more question. One question, the last one I'll go for is Nafisa on Twitter. She said, how do you set up dividends which are paid monthly in QuickBooks without setting it up as an expense account? This is currently how it's set up for me, so the figures are incorrect every month. So really easy one, Nafisa. What you need to do is in your chart of accounts, go and find that dividend account. If you go to the right-hand side, there's a drop-down box, and if you go into there and edit, then a new box appears, and you will see there's something at the top left that says account type. When you go into that account type, you can change that to what we call current liabilities. And if you put that as a current liability, at the moment it will say it's an expense. If you put that as a current liability, what will then happen is it will sit on your balance sheet. So it won't affect your profit and loss account at all, and it won't deduct anything from your corporation tax. And then you'll see a running balance of those dividends that have been paid. And then at the year end, your accountant will clear them out to your retained reserves once they've done their work. So I just wanted to touch on the poll results. So they're in. So the question today, which was kind of linked to my intro, that said, do you do your invoices on the go or do you do them on a set day? So 100% of you said that you do them on the go. None of you, obviously, if 100% do it on the go, do it on a set day of the week or the month. So that is fantastic. And I'm really pleased. As I said at the start, I've got quite a lot of clients that use QuickBooks Online and are still invoicing on a set day of a month that we're trying desperately to get them to change that. So it's fantastic that all you watching today are doing that invoicing on the go. And hopefully the bit of information that I gave on ways of getting paid quicker will mean that conjoined with that invoicing on the go, that your cash flow is going to be far more positive than it possibly would have been if you were just invoicing now and again. So keep up the good work, everybody. It's fantastic. I'm afraid we're running out of time now today. So it just leaves me the chance to thank you very much for all your questions today. As I said earlier, I'm happy for people to contact me via Moore and Smalley, where I work, if you've got any extra questions. So if you want to send any questions for myself and my team to answer, you can send them to digitalsolutions@mooreandsmalley.co.uk. And if you'd like a bit more information in general about setting up your own business or how to use QuickBooks, then please visit our website, which is www.mooreandsmalley.co.uk. And we have on our website an insight area that's full of blogs and videos and lots of information around running your business and advice that you may need. So pop along to that website and have a look. So it leaves me to introduce the expert for tomorrow. So tomorrow's expert is Sean Goldsmith, a special advisor to the franchise industry and a multi-brand franchisor with extensive international experience. So tune in to get some strategic planning and franchise advice tomorrow morning. A final reminder that if you need any more advice, please join the official Intuit QuickBooks SMB community group on Facebook. Accountants and business experts are on there 24/7 to help you with any questions you might have. Don't forget the Be Your Own Boss competition. Pitch a new business idea and you could win investment, mentorship and business advice. The investment pot is now £10,000 thanks to Go Cardless adding more into the initial pot from the Purposeful project. All you need to do is tag #BeYourOwnBoss to enter. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and I hope you all have a great day.